Hi, this is David Odell with Odell Complete Concrete. This is first day on the job site. We're starting to break out some concrete. This sidewalk right here, you can see that dark spot in it. That's a puddle basically. That's where the water never runs off. So that's why you got that discoloration there. In fact, this whole backyard slopes backwards from the driveway. So according to what the homeowner was telling me, all the water just puddles in front of the bottom step there. So what we're going to do is we're going to raise this entire sidewalk and we're going to eliminate one step. So that's going to give us, we're going to be raising the entire front yard 6 inches and the sidewalk as well. So instead of 3 steps coming off of that raised porch, there will be 2 when it's all said and done. We'll be removing the lawn. Well, actually I'm not removing the lawn. What I am doing is I'm spraying it with some Roundup concentrated formula that I dilute, and then I'm going to spray it 3 times to make sure that it's good and dead and then it won't grow back. That kills the roots and all. That way you can just till it in and put some topsoil, use the existing sprinkler lines, you change the heads and then go for it. But this concrete's coming out pretty easy. There's no rebar in it as usual. That's usually why I demo stuff, because it's coming apart. In this case, there was multiple reasons I'm demoing it. They had a water line leak under the driveway, and the pressure from the water leak underneath the driveway actually lifted the driveway above the garage floor. So that's the reason we took out that section of the driveway. The other reason for just going ahead and removing the steps and entry was the slope was wrong right from the beginning. Also, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be putting a 3-inch drain line that will attach to the downspouts from the house. There's not a real curb because this is a different type of setup community here. So I can't really go through a curb face and exit, release the water from the drain. So I'm going to have it just come up and then push out. You'll see that when we get towards the end. But we're removing the curb. The curb came up as well with that water leak. So everything got raised. And since we're doing new concrete in this area and not the rest of the driveway, even if you go with a regular concrete with no color in it, it's still not going to match, and you'll always see that it was a patch or it was done at a different time. So what we're going to do is really offset it and highlight it, and we're going to do terracotta color in this driveway and this porch or this landing, these steps and walkway. Here's some of the sprinkler lines we ran into. You can see this went to a planter. These 2 are capped off already right there at the end by the brick. But those are the 2 that were going under the driveway and were leaking. So those were capped off at some point. Although there is a T that goes across the old walk to the planter bed behind this. So what we're doing is we're just shortening up all these pipes and utilizing the underground stuff. We'll be throwing an extra 3-inch sleeve from where those valves are in that water spigot there. I'll throw a sleeve, a 3-inch across there, just in case for future. We can always pull a new water line for all the sprinklers across underneath the new walkway without having to dig. We can just slide them right through the pipe. So this trench that we're doing right here is going to be for the downspout, for the gutter runoff from the roof. Here's the part of the trench. Some of those water lines, all the water lines are existing. We're utilizing everything underground. So we're just going to change the sprinkler heads. We had to push a couple sprinkler heads back because we widened the driveway at this one point. So there was sprinkler heads along the back side of this driveway, 3 of them. We pushed that whole line out into the lawn area. So some of the underground is new, but most of it remained the same. A lot of roots. All these roots are from the palm trees, as you can see here. Palm trees roots go everywhere. They get pretty dense, hard to dig through. We got a lot of the pipe out and we pressure tested, and it blew out on one of the old joints. When that happened, I noticed that they'd used the gray glue, which I don't care for. I like the blue glue. I've seen that gray blow apart before, and that's probably what blew apart underneath the driveway, was the gray glue. And then when I had these lines exposed, I pressure tested it. Blew a coupling right off, and it was the gray glue. So I don't recommend it. I'd go with the blue glue. It just seems to adhere a lot better. Although the gray is supposed to be higher PSI, but it still doesn't glue as well. That's what I found. Now this line here is for the drain. What we're going to do is just slope the drain out towards the low area of the driveway, and then we'll just bring a riser up, and then as the water fills up in the drain, it'll push out through a area drain that we'll have down near the lower portion of the driveway. We're going to put a little box out around those sprinkler valves and water bib. We'll have a drain in there as well in case any water gets in there from the siphon of the sprinkler valves, or any water that goes in there will end up going out the drain. We're widening this walkway to 8 feet. The original one was 6 feet. Now we're going to do an 8 foot, and we're going to also do a little radius just so we can miss that palm tree down there. So all the dirt we're taking out of here and the sod, we're going to be disposing of that. And then what we'll do is we'll bring in clean dirt without a lot of roots in it. And that'll be what we use to bring up the elevation underneath this concrete. Dirt without roots in it. Now I'm building the steps here, and this is the riser. And they're going to be cantilever steps. So on the bottom of these riser boards that I'm building, I'm actually gonna put a 60-degree batter on the bottom of these risers, because I don't want to have to strip it, and finish it. And with this batter from 0 to 60 degree, I can finish the tread all the way to the back of the step, which will be 1.5 inches underneath the cantilevered edge. So I can actually leave this bottom board underneath and finish the treads without having to strip the entire thing and taking a risk of that cantilever collapsing while the concrete's wet. Now, the way I'm setting these steps up is for a monolithic pour. So I can actually pour this all at one stage. So this is how you would do it if you're going to do a monolithic steps and slab together. Although I modified the step after I got more into it, and I ended up pouring the steps separately. But it could be done either way, and that's basically my form systems can go either way, monolithic or separate pours. So here's some of these sprinkler lines we've located. We found some leaks and stuff that we had to repair, and we had to relocate some. One of these goes into the planter, and one was for the lawn. Now we've got all the dirt backfilled, and we've got the walkway raised. As you can see, we've already compacted that driveway area. Now here's the 2 foot that we're moving over, because we're widening the walkway. Here's the extensions on it to get it out beyond the concrete. We had to move 2 sprinkler heads out that were along the edge of the original sidewalk. Now that we're 8 foot wide, we're pushing out. Also, I'm putting some aluminum flashing along the side of the house, because this is particle wood board siding. It's not the cement, so it's not going to hold up real well with moisture against it. So we have to put the aluminum against it to keep the moisture away from absorbing into that wood. It'll just rot out otherwise. Now I'm doweling everywhere. I'm even doweling on the garage. Normally I don't dowel on the garage slab, but Since the palm trees there and there's a lot of roots, I'm dialing into everything to try to hold everything in place so it can't come up again. Initially it was from the water leak, but the palm tree is much bigger than when it was planted, so there's a lot more roots under there, and that's going to displace a lot of dirt. And when dirt gets displaced, it moves things. So I'm going to tighten it up with some dowels and get rebar in there, so my concrete will be stronger than the tree. It's my basic thought pattern. Now on this side here, you could use some plywood on the side if you'd like. I just do everything pretty much. If it's under 2 feet or in that ballpark, I'll use 2x12s. If I get bigger than that, then I go with plywood. See how I added that board underneath that bottom step? Well, that's so I can pour the steps separately. Now if I wanted to pour it monolithic, I wouldn't have added that board at the bottom there. And then concrete would have just flowed out at the right elevation for a mono pour all the way out. So I'm going to pour these steps with the driveway portion, and then we'll just do the walkway on a separate pour along with the mow strip. So we did have to add another mow strip here too along the house since we pushed the lawn all the way back. We pushed the lawn back all the way against that raised porch, and I don't like my sprinkler heads against buildings, so I always put a curb at the base to keep my heads out, just to prevent overspray on the building, as that does some damage. Now here's your cantilever setup right here. And then of course I've got my 60-degree batter right there, so I can finish the concrete, the tread all the way under, and when I do strip it, the next day after I pour, it'll be nice and clean. And you'll see that too as well, how it works. So I'm using screws on these riser boards. That way, I don't have to bang the wood around a lot, and I can strip it pretty easily that way. Now here's the new sprinkler location. I just ran them up a little high. That way we can find them real easy. After we get the concrete done, we can adjust the height of them once we get the lawn in the right grade. Now those boards on the top of those risers just a little more added strength, so the treads stay at the same width on both ends, and they won't move with the weight of the concrete hitting it. I've got some masonite here. I'm going to use that. I could have used that to line the inside of those 2x12s too, on that one side of the steps. Would have gave a real nice clean side, but I face it anyway when it's wet, so it doesn't really matter. But if you didn't want to have to face it, if you line it with that masonite, you get a really smooth surface that you won't have to strip and face. Now this little existing mow strip that ran through to the driveway, we eliminate that and just run the concrete through. But here's what I wanted to use the masonite for right here. Instead of chopping through all those roots, because there's a ton of them because of all those palms, I just went with some 1/4-inch masonite and just pushed it right up against the roots, and that actually makes the perfect radius, and it's very, very stable right there. So I can pour against it, and that masonite won't move. And now on the inside, I used the same siding they used on the house, and I just ripped it on an angle, because we have 6 inches at the low end, we have about 4 inches at the high side, so this is ripped from 6 to 4, and I'm just going to pour against that. I'm going to put a bunch of oil on it, use motor oil of course out of my truck, so that way I get plenty of use out of that synthetic. It's pretty expensive stuff. That sidewalk along the side of the house over there is getting pushed up as well, but it's really not affecting anything at this time, so we didn't have to deal with it. We just adjusted the curb height basically to make it work. Now this curb is going to get a monolithic pour with this driveway, in other words curb and driveway poured at the same time. So we've already got the excess dirt in here, clean dirt. And you can see it's much higher than the lawn at this point, so this will be our new elevation for the lawn as well once we get this concrete in here. We've already sprayed this a couple times, this lawn, with the Roundup in the bush by the palm. We've also sprayed that, and you can see it's withering away pretty nicely. Now that we raised that up 6 inches, we got to compact this really good. So that's what we're doing here. Now here's the first pour. I'm going to flood it before we actually do the pour and let it soak overnight. That'll settle all the trenches. Even though we compacted, water really makes a difference. Here's my other brother. You probably haven't seen him. Well, yeah, he was on a block job once on the video, but here he is. This is another brother of mine that been doing concrete nearly as long as me, but he's just younger, so not quite as long. Now what this color is terracotta, and of course I put the fiber in there because I put fiber in everything. This is going in at about probably a 5-inch slump. If it was any wetter than that, it wouldn't hold the curb or the steps. It would just run right on out. So whenever you got things like that, vertical stuff on a monolithic, you're going to have to consider how wet you're going to have that concrete to hold those up. So this is the first lay down on this curb. And there's that drain where the water is actually going to push up and out of. At the bottom of that drain, I cut a couple holes in the bottom pipe, and then I've wrapped it with some fabric. So any residual water would end up perking into the soil there. And then heavy rain or heavy water in that system will push out. Anything left in the pipe will just absorb into the ground. It's time to get the steel stakes out right now, fill in the holes at the base. It's not quite ready to pull the actual form. Probably another 20 minutes after this, at this point. And we're going to be wet joining this. What we're doing on this one was following the joints in the driveway. Because now that this concrete's doweled into the driveway, it's going to basically move as one piece. So we have to copy the joints on the driveway. Otherwise the joints could reflect through the driveway if we were offset. So I just run a cove tool, a 1/2-inch cove on the bottom, and then I got a 1/2-inch top tool. The ones I'm using here are 4-inch, so it wraps around this pretty easily. My cove will hit the bottom at the top there, but it won't wrap the top of it because it's not a high enough curb face. Also, what we have here is we have a week later video on this job, because we had to go back just to do the fine tuning on the we had to reduce the watering times. That's what you do when you put new sod in. 1 week heavy watering, then you can start reducing it. So we came back a week later, and you'll see how much different this concrete color it changed. We did get one spall on the driveway, as you can see here on the right, but we ended up patching that in with some Quickcrete vinyl patch, and we put some Quickcrete concrete glue on there as well. Now this right here we poured with the driveway. I just double checked it with a level of the treads to make sure it's sloping out, and it was. So you can see how I pulled the main form off, and now I can edge underneath. And I'm leaving that bottom form that's got the 60-degree bevel on it. I'm gonna leave that. That'll just hold up that 1.5-inch cantilever. It may hold if I pulled that out, but you know, why risk it? It's just a lot more work if it doesn't hold, because you got to put it back in, reform it, beat it in, let it dry a little more, and then try stripping it again. So we'll just leave it under there until the next day, and I know I'm not going to run into any risk at all. This should be my last pass on this curb face. We're a little shaded over here, so we had to wait on the broom in this area. Now we're just going to use a nice paintbrush to do the touch-ups around the curb. Now when you're brooming color concrete especially, you don't want to have a wet broom, because what that's going to do is dilute the surface a little, and you're going to get a different color. So you want to go dry broom on color concrete. Keep it nice and consistent that way. So there's the finish. You can see the shiner edge we left on that. We had a broom in the middle and then a shiner edge. Everything's broomed out nice and evenly. Little residual over on the driveway, but that'll come off the next day. Little wire brush. There's the drain cap, where the water will actually be coming out of. It's a removable cap, so it can be flushed pretty easily. Here's the next day. I'm trying to remove that bottom board underneath that cantilever. Didn't come out as quite as easy as I anticipated, so I had to rip it. I just ripped it the whole distance of that step, and then it just fell right on out. Here's the radius I was talking about earlier, just in order to give some space around that palm there. And we're gonna drill into the step with some dowels. We're going to drill into the driveway. We also drilled into the actual raised porch for the steps, so we've got rebar holding the steps there. Those steps actually sit right on the foundation of the house and porch, so that thing's not going anywhere. Now there's the box out around the valves. I have a 3-inch pipe going across there just for future plumbing, in case some more of those gray glues end up blowing apart sometime in the future. we can just pull a new line across through that 3-inch sleeve, and we won't have any problem. So I've ripped it out and shredding that piece, trying to get it out from under there. I got the bottom one out. It came out real clean. No rock pockets underneath there. Even though they're going to be putting some tile underneath the bottom of these steps, you could leave it without tile, and it turned out beautiful. Without a vibrator, just tapping with a hammer. You know, it's a lot to do with the mix design. That's why you don't get the rock pockets. This is pea gravel, so you don't get a lot of rock pockets with pea gravel. It's very rare, unless you've got a lot of steel that's real close to the edges, and you could get some. Yeah, I could force this board out, but again, you run the risk of cracking that top cantilever off, because this is only a couple days after we poured, so it's not reached full strength for 28 days. And actually, the color probably won't really reach its true color, because we're in the shade here for probably 45 days. Although we will show 1 week later in this video. Now here's the mow strip we had to add along the house, because I moved some sprinkler heads along there, and like I said before, I don't like them against the house, because spray heads always have a tendency to blow in the wind and malfunction, so you get water hitting places where you don't want it to. So I keep them out about 6 inches. That gives me a little leeway for failure of some sort in the way of the sprinkler heads or wind. Now what we have here is the side yard. We didn't add color to that. I used the basic terracotta color concrete for the bottom 2 inches of that pour, and then I went ahead and bag mixed the top 2 inches, so I have no color on the surface around the corner there. Instead of mixing bag concrete all the way through, which is more work, and since I had the terracotta, we poured up 2, dropped some bags on top, and then we have basic concrete without the color. We'll put a couple joints in this. We're going to wet cut those as well, and that's going to come right off of that box there, because those are prime crack points. Any protruding corners into the concrete is where it's going to always crack. So you just nail those and then split everything else up equally. I poured this on a very windy day, and there's a lot of trees around here, so I was able to get it all laid down without a lot of leaves getting into the concrete. But what I had to do is keep the blower hooked up, and I just, every time I would hit this, I have to blow the leaves off, you know, trowel it, blow the leaves off, trowel it, you know, like that. Otherwise, if you trowel the leaves in, they're going to come out and they're going to leave marks. Now on this one, we're going to leave, just like we did with the steps, we're going to leave a shiner edge around the entire perimeter, and then also we're going to leave a shiner on these joints as well. So it has a little different look than the driveway. In order to get this type of finish, you broom the concrete first, and then you run your joiner and your edger last, and that shines it all up. You can see the ground, the sod, how brown it is now, and you know that Roundup worked when it's all brown. And what I've done is I ran the rototiller through everything just to loosen it up, because I have to relocate all the dirt to the high side now. So you got to make sure that you see the next video, and that's actually the completed job. And that's when the sod goes in. We're going to show the topsoil going in and how to adjust the sprinklers. So here's that area I was talking about. I put terracotta concrete underneath this little 2-inch lift of bag mix. There's your broom. I'm just one weighing this broom because over here we're a little shaded, so you could only pull it one direction or it really would have tore up the surface. So take a look how clean underneath those steps are. Pretty nice. And here's your shiners I was talking about with your joiner and hand edger. Now all we have to do now is just pull the forms, bring in the topsoil, adjust the sprinklers, and lay sod. Thank you for watching my videos. Have a good day. If you like it, subscribe, hit the bell for the latest and greatest releases. You get the notifications that way. Thanks.